have a bunch of people who remote work. Confrontation game. What do you want me to look at, bunnokazooie? Like which module should I look at? What do you want me to look at? Like what aspects do you want me to look at? New team is all about UI text. What you're trying to say is that there is nothing to worry about how much text you know, because it shows us that wanting to work only one specific is totally acceptable. Well, in the short term, yes. If you just want to focus on Reacts, then yeah, there's plenty of options. But in the long term, you said career, so I'm thinking 20 years, 30 years. For a career, putting all your eggs in the React basket is probably a bad idea. It may pay off, but I think it's a bad suggestion. Cards and architecture. I can't work remotely myself. I need to interact with people and have discussions, like impromptu meetings over lunch and stuff. Play cards, strength increase. A good and a deck. Dark. Good and a dark is a card outcome. Okay. Okay. So architecturally, I would probably, I don't know what the rest of your program looks like, but I would probably make these, so it depends. Are these like hard-coded rules, like the rules of chess? Or are these kind of like Magic the Gathering cards, where you can mint new cards and then they have different interactions, just because you decided to create new ones? If it's more in the latter of like Magic the Gathering, then instead of putting this in a program, I would make a data file so that you can modify that data file without recompiling the program and change the rules that way, add new cards. And if this was a network game, then you could download that database from the internets or whatever. So if it's more like rules of chess, then yeah, this is fine. There's not really much to review, but yeah. It's interesting that you have eq, ord, and show for your card types, but not for the outcome. Not that you need it, but I'm interested in why you have eq, ord, and show. Like, why do you, particularly ord, why do you have that? Seems kind of odd to have ord for cards. It looks like this from maybe import is unused. You delete that. It's a pretty complicated game, not gonna lie. We're working remotely right now, kind of. It's not my preference. If I can meet all of you in person, that'd be way better. Pieces and read. This looks suspicious. Piece. So that would be in confrontation. So is this list supposed to match this list? I think they are. if that's the case, you can use minima. I think it's bounded. What is it? Bounded? Min bound and max bound. Maybe there's a super class called enum or something. Enum. Yeah, enum. So derive enum, and then you can say, well, maybe not. Maybe it's not enum. It might be enum, or maybe not. But there's a way to make a list of all of them. So if you make your thing enum and bounded, then you can say from min bound to max bound, and just it'll automatically pick them all up. There might be a helper function for that. Enum a bounded a list of a. Enumerate. There you go. Well, that's in the extra package. I thought there would be something in the prelude. You could just write it yourself. There you go. Min bound, max bound. So this is exactly what I said. So I think basically this function is public domain. The documentation is not, but go ahead and steal that, and because I just said it verbally, and use that instead of listing out all the pieces, because this could get out of sync. You may have missed one or whatever with your data definition. Yeah, Jerome, I remember you. And same deal with regions. Might not be the case with these two, with your initial good cards, initial bad cards. So maybe not do those. I don't know. I would need to check. Sample positions, zip pieces. This looks sketchy because this relies on the order of pieces. I would just enumerate all the pairs. Well, maybe not. You can have a function from the piece to, well, is this like example positions? Or does sample mean something specific? Because if it's just an example, now it's fine. That's fine. Is the game allowed to have multiple pieces in different regions? Can I have two Gandalfs or not? If it's not legal, then you could use a map instead, or a hash map. But even then, does this need to be total? Do we have to have all the pieces on the board? Or can we remove some? If you can remove some, and you can have no more than one of each piece, then I would use a hash map. Look at movement.js or HS, movements. It was hard to update the state. It started with a map, but it's hard to update the state. Well, if it's hard to update the state, then you can encapsulate. I don't know who's modifying game state, but you'd probably keep the modification functions in this module. I don't know where your modifications are to game state, but What do you want me to look in here for? If you spell it out, it sounds fucked too. Erky? What are you talking about? Oh, just like look at it, review it. Um, mhm. Is there? Oh, are these always opposites? If these are always opposites, then you can make a function to do that. Do I have GHCI? What? Why is it downloading G? I thought I had it downloaded. Darn it. I was gonna prototype a thing. You can look at the PNG of the game if you Google Lauder confrontation. Okay, so there's the game board, and you're so sideways would be that. So that means these are all adjacent, and these are all adjacent. So it's not just that these need to be in pairs. It's also that these are linked. Wait, no, they're not. These are linked. So 1, 2, 3, 1. So R, E, and E are all linked together in a particular order. So that's how I would express it. That's how I would want to see it in the code. Yeah. Toward Mordor. Do I have your code even? Is it game project whatever? Or is this? You don't have a stack file? So I want to play around with this sideways. Towards the Shire. Oh, that's cool. There's probably a function for this. It wouldn't be called flip. A to B goes to B, A. Swap. Use swap. The function already exists. You don't need to write a lambda. Shortcuts. Ooh. Look up all. Okay. I would write this as a filter than a map, or as a map maybe, or as a list comprehension. I think list comprehension is probably the best. Cool. So let's stack REPL. Okay. So we got lookup all. Do you have a test for this? Do you write tests? None of these scream test to me. So we got, let's say we got that. What's a better example? We got and toward Mordor. And so I would say look up all prime would be x and x's. How do I write list comprehensions? Haskell list comprehension. Okay. Come on. Haystack. So needle, well, value, and then there was the if. Where's the guard? I guess I just do pipe and then the boolean. Yeah, like that. Key is equal to needle. Look up all prime. Yeah, so I think a list comprehension makes more sense. You can feel free to change the variable names. So G, you're saying your main is a test? It's not a test. Okay, so now we got this. So we got sideways. What I want to do is implement that different way. So I want to not copy. I want to say that and that is a row. That and that are a row. And those two are a row. And yeah, these three are a row. It's not going to work, is it? Oh well. Beep. Beep. You kidding me? Load movement. What? There was an error. Why can't I select buffer 1? Okay, weird. So sideways rows. Is this Haskell? Yes. I can see why he did it this way. Sideways. Hey, here's your find all function. That's find all right there. Use find all in Aragon moves. Hey, it's the same thing there. So use find all here in your movement functions. Could I explain this Haskell state monad? No. Because if you give me some code, then maybe. If you give me, like, you have to give me how much you understand, and then I can give you some knowledge. We need to have some common ground, and code is an easy way to communicate that common ground, to show how much you know. Know what I mean? So what I want to do is for each pair, so I want to walk, okay, I'll zip. So if I'm looking at this, look at this case. So if I zip that with tail of that, then I get this. And if then I just do a zip with, well, I do what you did. Wait, is comprehension zip, or is it, is this thing doing zip? No, it's doing the products. Okay. So that gives us that, and then we run your concat map thing. Okay. So sideways prime would be do row sideways rows, where do row is zip row with tail row, and then we with flips. And with flips would be your concatenate thing. Concat map AB goes to AB, comma, BA. I could also do zip with. I'll do that. So A from left, right, and right, left. Okay. Load. Movement. Sideways prime. Sideways equals sideways prime. Cool. So I think this is a much better way to represent it. It does involve some sort of cryptic code, but it produces the same result. So with flips is like the knockoff brand for commutativity to T. What? Don't know what that means. Yeah, the best thing you could do is make the code look like the domain. Otherwise, you gotta find it. You have to decode it or understand it, which is a bad thing. I did the lookup all. Let me just throw that in the. Where is it? Here. Sideways. Please look up all instead. Here. Half second. That's the only place you're doing it. Doop, doop, doop. Oh dear. Just region nothing. So I like what you did with your returning functions, and then you only call it once here, so you avoid duplicating the call. Yeah. Yeah. How do I feel about the parenthesized case? Well, I'm trying to think of other ways to do it, and I don't see any better ways to do it. There's alternatives, like you can make a binding. P smooths where P smooths is equal to that. Get you something like that. I don't think that makes it better. Maybe it does. Maybe that's better. So the ST monad is pretty different from the state monad. So if you understand ST, then that doesn't mean you understand state. And if you understand state, that doesn't mean you understand ST. Let's do that enumerate thing that we did. And we were in card, right? Cards? No, it wasn't cards. It was confrontation. No, it was, oops, game state. Load game state. So we got pieces prime should equal enumerates. Pieces prime is a list of piece. Enumerate is min bound, max bound. And it's saying we don't have that on piece. So bounded and enum So we got pieces and pieces prime. Pieces should equal pieces prime. Cool. And regions, we could do the same thing. Regions prime. Regions prime is equal to enumerate. And we gotta add our deriving stuff to regions. So bounded and enum. Oh no. Oh, it inferred a monomorphic. Enum a bounded a enum a list of a. So regions prime. Those are the same. Cool. And your cards. So this good card list and the initial good cards are not the same. So you wouldn't use the enumerate for that. So yeah. Inferred a monomorphic. Oh, so if you don't have an annotation here, then what it's doing is maybe it depends on the order. No. So it's saying that when I use it here, okay, so if I make enumerate prime and you ask for the type. Really? Well, basically it can't, or it doesn't. What if I do this in the REPL itself? It works in the REPL. Why does it not? Why does it work in the REPL but not in the? Bounded region. Huh? Maybe it's specific to this. Well, when I only had one use of enumerate, it inferred that enumerate always returns a list of piece if it was just this one call. That's what it was doing. That's what I meant by monomorphic. It wasn't making a general. It wasn't making a general definition of enumerate. Now, I don't know why, if it's not called, it fails. Maybe it's because so that should work. No? I guess it's trying to find a concrete implementation, but it can't. And I don't know why it's trying to find a concrete one, but it is. You're missing Elven Cloak in your initial card list. Oh, is that a mistake? Are you supposed to have the Elven Cloak? Well, okay. Well, there you go. That's why you should use enumerate to generate that list for you from your data definition. If you're supposed to have all the cards. That's cool. This is what you generate. This beautiful, beautiful diagram. So what's interesting is we made our sideways rows might be able to use that to define all of these, like the whole grid. You might be able to share that, or maybe not. I don't know. Like we could even include the Shire and Mordor in our sideways thing. Where is it? Movement. So if we have the Shire at the top and Mordor at the bottom, load movement. Darn it. And sideways. Our sideways is still correct because we zip with the row and the tail of the row. And if you zip a list with one thing, like the Shire, zip, and then the tail of that, you get nothing because the tail of one thing is empty, and if you zip something with empty, it always returns the empty list. So that's why that case works. Maybe the tricky part is getting this, because you don't want sideways for all these spots. But, yeah. Help visualize for debugging? Yeah. Debugging tools are really important. My chat client doesn't have debugging tools, and I need them. I did a little bit of research on debugging tool I could use, but there's no off-the-shelf thing, so I'd have to implement it myself, and my other projects is doing that, and I didn't want to mix the projects, so. But yeah. Debugging tools are important. It's like visualizing it in a domain-specific way, like having these centered, and I don't know why these are red, but yeah. Yeah, breadth vectors, that has influenced me as well, that breadth vector talk. Section. I don't know about section. So how do you do this? Are you using a CSS grid? Fine, that makes sense. It's just you end up with like a crazy ass grid template thing. I mean, here it's visualized poorly. You probably have better, looks better in your code. I mean, that looks okay, yeah. Just CSS grid is kind of shitty. They're not sections though. At least I don't think of them as sections. Just because you're not using div doesn't mean it's semantic. And H1 isn't really right either, because they're not. Like it's the H1 of the H1 of the section. Sure, I'll give you that. Would I prefer a div? I don't know. I don't know. So why does the section have the text align center? Wouldn't H1 have the text align center? Because it doesn't matter. You want me to look at your HTML generator? So instead of doing this, I would just implement show to do the right thing. But that's just me. You're not sanitizing. No. If region is elem of selected region, then class selected, else nothing. Yeah, maybe. Section ID is show region. I guess that's why you have show versus show with spaces for the ID. But do you really need the ID? I don't think you need ID. Concat map x li. Pieces in region. So since you're calling pieces in region only once, I would put this in its own where clause, and then you can just infer that. And then you don't need to pass in region, and you can call it pieces, because yeah. Filter region is region, positions game state. So actually, pieces in region, I would put this in the game state module. That would make sense in the game state module, I think. You need ID for the CSS grid? No, you don't. Oh, you have that? You don't need to do it this way. You can just have the style. I would do style grid area Mordor instead of the ID. Like if we drop the ID, then it's still in the right spot. So this would be game state. That. And then you can make a variable called pieces where pieces there. Just to cut down on the noise, the horizontal noise. Like, I would pieces. I would do this. Piece to HTML. Because you're probably going to want to do more stuff, like show a picture, maybe put in the class so you can style it however you want. So you can style the bad things as one thing and the good things as another thing. Or the good and the dark as style them differently. So you would have more crap in here, and it's easier to work with more crap if it's in its own little function. Inline styles and advocating for divs. Well, I'm just saying what I would do. I'm not saying that you should do it. If there's other reasons that you would have ID Mordor, then like if they had their own background and stuff, then that makes sense. But I don't think they need to be IDs. They could just be classes, right? Unless you're gonna refer to them from JavaScript or something. I don't know. Usually you can use classes instead of IDs. I'm just giving an option. As far as this, ugh, maybe the comprehension idea would be better. Pieces in region. So we have piece where piece region from positions game state region equals region. I call that piece region instead of piece region is equal to region. Game state region. State piece region. It's longer, but only because I wrote. Oops. Wrote this out. If you use region prime, then the list comprehension is shorter and I think easier to understand. Where should you learn how to code? I don't know. What do you want to make? I guess even if you tell me the answer, I wouldn't know. I'm not. I can't help you get started. I'm not smart enough to help you get started. But I can definitely help you learn specific things. Nikito, are you still here? I'll give you this diff. So you can, I don't know, just have the diff. Let's give you that diff. Confrontation game, that diff.